Welcome everyone to Monday Match Analysis. I'm Gill Gross, and it is time for a preview of the 2023 Canada Masters. The men this year are in the great city of Toronto. Of course, this is not Monday. In fact, usually my previews come before Monday, at least before the tournament begins. That is not the case this time. If you were in the loop, you know that I am back from a little bit of a vacation. If you are out of the loop, now you know. But we're going to go business as usual for the most part. Same quarter by quarter stuff. The only alteration is I'm going to give a longer than normal introduction where I am going to reveal my pick to win the tournament right away off the top, just to kind of do it first. I don't know. It just felt right. So yes, all the first round matches are done. One second round match is done. Congratulations to Casper Ruud for being into the third round already. For some reason, they scheduled his second round match a day before second round matches started. I don't know. I want to start by taking a trip down memory lane. Let's harken back to last year. Hardcourt summer. Got a little bit wild. Remember? Pablo Carreño Busta defeats Hubert Hurkacz, wins his first Masters 1000 title in Montreal. Another first-time Masters 1000 champion in Cincinnati, Borna Coric, who was outside the top 100 at the time, defeats Stefanos Tsitsipas. Was the U.S. Open surprising? Well, maybe not the champion, but you did have first-time semifinalist Frances Tiafoe and first-time major semifinalist Karen Khachanov, who nobody really expected to beat Nick Kyrgios in that quarterfinal match. So the whole summer came with its fair share of surprises, I think it's fair to say. Why is that? I mean, I think for a long time I've covered what my theory is for why the U.S. Open has been a little bit more wide open than the other three majors. More injuries, more wear and tear, more mental fatigue at this time of year. Which then leads me to the question, are we going to see a similar North American hardcourt swing where we're going to get champions that maybe we didn't expect, that maybe haven't done it before? Because all those things are still true. It's still the same time of year. So are we going to see it again? I actually land at the answer being no. I look at the top of the field. I look at the best men in the world right now, and I think about where they were 365 days ago, and I can't shake the feeling that they are much, much better now. And not just a few of them. I'm talking most of them. Daniil Medvedev, way better. Stefanos Tsitsipas seems to be in a better spot mentally. This time last year, if you remember the Draper performance, the Galan U.S. Open performance, even, I know he made the final in Cincinnati, but even the match against Coric in the Cincinnati final, his compete level was inconsistent. And I haven't seen that as much recently. He seems to have found some stability. Jannik Sinner is a way better player in 2023 than he was last year. Andrei Rublev has made incremental improvements in various aspects of his game. And I trust him a lot more now. And Carlos Alcaraz, who at times last year flashed his unbelievable powers, but at other times played down several levels. And that's been rare this year. We haven't seen that as much. So I just think everybody's better. And then you have a couple of participation ads. Novak Djokovic isn't playing here in Toronto, but he'll be back in the mix, back in the fold for Cincinnati in the U.S. Open, which wasn't true last year. And then Alexander Zverev as well, obviously was sidelined with the ankle injury last year at this time. This year, he's back. And he's been a very consistent performer, despite not having a lot of massive wins. He's been consistent, and he's 10th in the race. So that's why I kind of look at the field, and as I think about what happened last year, and I ponder if we might see something similar, I land at no. But maybe. We'll have to see. I also want to look at Toronto results. Might that inform us about what's going to happen this week? It's actually a very interesting pattern, a very consistent pattern. What I'm going to do is just rattle off semifinalists from the last 2 editions of the event. Daniil Medvedev, John Isner, Riley Opelka, Stefanos Tsitsipas twice, Rafael Nadal, Karen Khachanov, Kevin Anderson. One more time. Medvedev, Isner, Opelka, Tsitsipas twice, Nadal, Khachanov, Anderson. There are a lot of tall, big servers in that group. In fact, everybody's 6'6" and above, except for Tsitsipas and Nadal. Tsitsipas and Nadal have exceptional high power, high RPM forehands. So I think my takeaway in terms of the conditions are that these courts just play really lively. You can certainly serve on these courts, and it will reward you. The ball just seems to jump off the court, and that helps the servers. That helps the taller players who like the high height of bounce. It really helps anybody who wants to kind of dig into their power when the ball sits up around shoulder height. Or, in the case of Isner and Opelka, maybe not quite as high. So that seems to be the pattern. I mean, is it a reach? I don't know. It seems too consistent for it to be a reach. So I keep that in mind. As I go into my predictions and my preview. Again, before I go quarter by quarter, I do want to just say who I'm picking to win, and then I'll talk a little bit about why. It is Carlos Alcaraz. I do predict Carlos Alcaraz to win in Toronto in 2023. And I didn't know that I was going to pick him. In fact, I didn't really think I was going to pick him because I figure he might need a little bit of time to kick back into gear if he did rest after Wimbledon. I also think there might be a little bit of a mental adjustment necessary after his star power and his expectations rose even a couple levels higher than they already were after beating Novak Djokovic in the Wimbledon final. And ultimately, he's got to lose sometimes. And he hasn't lost in a while. And I just got the feeling coming off of a long hiatus, relatively, in the Wimbledon title, that might not win this one. But I ended up not picking against him because I had Stefanos Tsitsipas in the semis. This is his best hardcourt Masters. The crowd supports him. The crowd lifts him up in Toronto. Big Greek population. He's confident coming off of his Los Cabos title, but I don't think he'll be tired because 3 out of the 4 matches that he played in Mexico weren't physical at all. I like the way he's hitting his forehand. I like the way he's protecting his backhand for the most part. I have Medvedev in the final. You never have to convince me much to pick Daniil Medvedev in a best-of-3 hard-court tournament. He is great at basically all of them. But if you need more than that, he did win last time in Toronto. And I think he is feeling really, really good about himself, as he should. He had a successful Wimbledon. And compared to this time last year, his tennis is in a way, way, way better place. And historically, this has been a time of year that he's really enjoyed. So, Tsitsipas in the semis, Medvedev in the final. Well, how do they do against Alcaraz? And I know you know these things. I know you know what the answer to that question is. But again, let's kind of iron out some details here. Hammer out some details. Not only is Tsitsipas 0-5 against Alcaraz in his career, but he's won a fewer percentage of points in all 5 meetings successively. Medvedev has played Alcaraz twice this year, and he hasn't won more than 3 games in one set. That's 5 sets against Alcaraz, and he hasn't done any better than 6-3. Look, these guys are too good to not get dominated by Carlitos. These guys are too good, Medvedev and Tsitsipas, to get dominated by Carlitos every time for the rest of time. I don't think that's going to happen. Again, I just think they're too good for that. But it is also, at the same time, hard to say that they are going to beat him at the end of this week, given what we've seen. Kind of hard to get there. And that's why I picked Alcaraz. Obviously, there's also the matter of him getting out of his quarter. So I think that is a good, transition to getting into Carlos Alcaraz's quarter. He's the number 1 seed. Holger Rune, Tommy Paul, Hubert Hurkacz. Good quarter. I like it. My dark horse here is Francisco Cerundolo. My upset alert is Holger Rune. My early popcorn is Paul versus Cerundolo in the second round. Let me start with Holger, actually. He's just still figuring things out on outdoor hardcourt. Hasn't had results in these conditions. Nothing compared to what he's accomplished in pretty much all other conditions. So it's kind of a wait-and-see game, especially because we haven't seen him since Wimbledon. I don't really know exactly what we're going to get. In fact, Holger Rune has shown me so many different styles, so many different mindsets on the court that I don't really know exactly what he is going to be deploying. So, yeah, kind of want to wait. And I love Cerundolo here. He's my dark horse. He's had loads of quality wins since Miami. I think winning a title on grass, as he did right before Wimbledon, will help his belief this summer, as I do feel that Cerundolo at times has lacked some of that drive and that belief off of clay. But really just in general, I don't think he's been the most confident and fiery of competitors. And I do think that might change a little bit as he just starts to come into his own and feel like he belongs on tour at the highest level a little bit more. And winning a title on grass is going to go a very long way for that. Just to kind of provide confirmation that he's a lot better than his ranking right now, and that he's been in good form, and that he's been picking up big wins, I did check his ELO ranking. ELO, which will kind of give him credit for more of those big wins, and also just take more into account recent times as opposed to the ATP computer, the ATP system, which has a very, very long memory of a full year. And ELO did confirm that Francisco Cerundolo is a lot better than 22 in the world. He's 13th in ELO. So he's my dark horse. Tommy Paul, by the way, 9-3 lifetime in Canada, if you include qualifying matches, beat Alcaraz last year. So he's also no slouch. And Hubert Hurkacz, great in North American hardcourt masters. So this is a really, really good quarter. Ultimately, I have Alcaraz defeating Francisco Cerundolo. Let's go on to the next quarter. It is Stefanos Tsitsipas' quarter. Top seeds are Tsitsipas, Sinner, FAA, and Coric. My dark horse here is Matteo Berrettini. My upset alert when I made it this morning was Borna Coric. He lost. It could have been FAA. He also lost. My early popcorn match is Jannik Sinner versus Matteo Berrettini. I am very fired up to see Berrettini Sinner. They have never played before. Now, best of 3 hardcourt generally brings out the worst in Matteo, but he was the most impressive player first week of Wimbledon, bar none. And, maybe it won't carry over, but I think it will. I'm kind of bullish about Berrettini's summer because of just the things that he showed me coming back from injury at the All England Club. He also has the benefit of having a win under his belt coming into the center match in the second round. So I always think that that's especially meaningful when players are coming off of long breaks. Berrettini has already felt the conditions, already felt that kind of match mindset, and that's generally an advantage. So I think Berrettini has a really good chance to beat Jannik. But if Sinner has his best level, Matteo probably won't have much to say, especially given the way that Jannik returns. My quarterfinal prediction is Stefanos Tsitsipas defeating Matteo Berrettini. Again, Coric lost already. I was suspicious he would, given how easy it would be for him to let his mind drift to defending 1,000 points next week. FAA also lost. He still really just can't get his season on the right track. Max Purcell was the man who took out Felix Auger-Aliassime, of course, in his home country of Canada. I already kind of talked about why I like Tsitsipas. I do like him over Berrettini. He has a surprisingly very, very good record against Matteo Berrettini. I forget what it is exactly, but I know that it is quite favorable. I only say surprisingly, not because Stefanos Tsitsipas isn't a better player than Matteo Berrettini. He is. It's just that at times some of the best servers on tour have fared better against Tsitsipas than maybe their overall level should suggest that they should. But I think Tsitsipas has had a lot of success against Matteo, mainly because Berrettini's had a lot of trouble finding breaks of serve against Stefanos. And I could see that continuing if they do play again in this quarterfinal. But if it's Jannik Sinner, I still like Stefanos Tsitsipas very, very much. And that is also a head-to-head that has been very kind to the Greek. So I do think that Tsitsipas coming off the title in Los Cabos will continue and convert this into another Final Four. He's been pretty good historically in Toronto as well. He's done it twice, as you may have picked up on at the top of the show. Casper Ruud's quarter, he's the number 3 seed. You got Andrei Rublev, Francis Tiafoe, and Alexander Zverev. My dark horse here is Milos Raonic. My upset alert is none. And, well, I mean, Tiafoe lost, so I could have just put Francis Tiafoe, in hindsight, but obviously that wouldn't have done much of good for anybody, so I just put none. Early popcorn is Zverev versus Davidovich Fokina in the second round. I just felt like of all of the second round matchups, that one is just the most intriguing in terms of what the result might be. Stylistically, it's kind of interesting. Zverev does have a knack for sucking the life out of matches against particular play styles, especially against players who just don't bring a lot of offensive productivity or proactiveness, but Fokina is not in that vein. So I think it'll be interesting. How good was Milos Raonic against Tiafoe? That was unbelievable. He hit an unbelievable amount of aces. Almost hit a career high in aces. His serve was untouchable. I was really impressed with the quality of his movement. He's crushing his forehand. He's slicing his backhands. It's going to be interesting to see what he can do. This is kind of the quarter of post-Wimbledon clay. Ruud, Rublev, Zverev, they all played after Wimbledon on the clay. They all posted pretty good results. I wouldn't be surprised if any of those three went through. But ultimately, I am picking Andrei Rublev to defeat Casper Ruud, because I just like Andrei Rublev's momentum. 3 out of his last 4 tournaments have been really, really good Båstad was exceedingly good. I was encouraged by Wimbledon. I loved the Bublik win. I liked how he played against Djokovic, relatively speaking. He's won his last 2 against Zverev. He's 5-2 lifetime against Ruud. He beat both of them in Båstad. He's moving well. Everything seems to kind of be firing. Andre is just playing great tennis. He's 5th in the race, by the way. He's very, very close to 4th. So quietly having maybe, I got to look at the numbers, maybe the best year of his career. I don't know if it's 2020 level because 2020 he was just winning so many titles in so few opportunities. But, you know, it really has been good. I love his momentum. So I went with him. Watch out for Raonic, though. I would flag him. Bomb serves and slice backhands are 2 things that can get to Rublev. They're 2 things that I do look for when it comes to opponents that can bother Andrei Rublev. Lastly, we have Daniil Medvedev's quarter. He's got Taylor Fritz, Cam Norrie, and Lorenzo Musetti. My dark horse is Hugo Humbert. My upset alert was Cam Norrie. He lost, so I crossed him out. My early popcorn is Fritz versus Humbert in the second round. Hugo Humbert has been on the rise recently. He's playing good tennis. And that's pretty much all I have to say about him. I've been keeping an eye on his results. He's been playing a lot of tennis, I'll say. Very, very kind of consistent workload, kind of playing every week. I don't know if that's going to end up being good for kind of like a U.S. Open run or something of the sort, because he could wear down at some point. But I think as of now, it's probably going to be a good thing as he continues to kind of pick up wins and start to feel better and better about his game, which is very much a game that can run hot and cold, but when it's on, he's incredibly dangerous. He's beaten a lot of top players, and that's why I definitely have my eye on Fritz versus Humbert in the second round. Still kind of looking for Taylor Fritz to still kind of trying to figure out where his game's at. It seems like he was playing better, lost in the semis in Washington, but these are very different conditions that I do think will help Taylor. So I think Fritz has a potential to do well in this quarter, but Medvedev would be a really brutal matchup for him. I really hate that head-to-head for Taylor, and I have ultimately Medvedev defeating Fritz in the quarterfinal. I just don't think Fritz incorporates enough net play. I don't think he drops shots well enough. I don't think he has enough variation in height and angle. So I just think it's kind of tailor-made for Daniil Medvedev. As I said, Cam Norrie was upset. Lorenzo Musetti he's been playing pretty well. Who does he play again? I remember being kind of interested in Musetti. Always gonna play Kokkinakis. Oh, and then he's in Medvedev's section. Musetti is probably the biggest danger to Medvedev here, other than Hugo Humbert, who I actually think has played, if my memory serves, I think he's played Medvedev really, really well in the past. In fact, I'm pretty sure he's beaten Daniil. I think he beat Daniil at the start of last year, I believe. All right. It is now time for the final weekend. I already did kind of my whole spiel in the beginning, so I won't go into detail. But it is as followed. Semifinals, Alcaraz defeats Tsitsipas in 2 sets. Medvedev defeats Rublev in 3 sets. And Alcaraz defeats Medvedev in 3 sets. I would hope that Tsitsipas and Medvedev would figure some things out if this happens, and that it wouldn't be as predictable as maybe things played out in Wimbledon, for example, in the semifinals. I hope some adjustments are made if this does happen. I think Daniil, hypothetically, would have a little bit of an easier time with those adjustments, but neither one has it easy. That's ultimately why I gave Medvedev a set in this one, which would be nice for him, positive for him if he would just kind of do something positive in this hypothetical final. We'll have to see how it plays out. Again, this is pretty chalky. Now, obviously, making predictions lends itself to less surprises than what actually happens in reality. But I'm very, very curious to see if the trend continues of some kind of unexpected results here in Canada, or if the top players end up performing and holding their seeds here ultimately as we get down to it. So excited to continue for this tournament coverage of the National Bank Open. I'll have some post-match. I'll have Monday match analysis, and it will be a lot of fun. Hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you next time.